It's an age-old way to communicate. You put a message in a bottle and cast it out to sea. But what if you're in landlocked Iowa? A question for our Steve Hartman.
For John Amalfitano, the past is ever present. Everywhere you look in his Dunellen, New Jersey home, there are relics from a bygone era.
I don't know what it is with me. I mean, I just have a connection with old stuff.
And he says no connection runs deeper than the curio in this cabinet.
That's the oddest thing of all.
It's a chicken egg, bequeathed to John by a neighbor who found it in a carton of eggs in 1951. The neighbor saved it because of the note. Whoever gets this egg, please write. Signed, Miss Mary Foss, Forest City, Iowa. John says his neighbor held on to the egg for 50 years and never looked for her. Then John held on to it for another 20 before finally posting pictures on the Weird and Wonderful Secondhand Finds Facebook page. To its 3 million members, he pondered, wonder if she might still be alive.
So, all those people who had egg on their Facebook hatched a plan, scrambled, tried hard to find this Mary Foss. After 72 years, they expected an exhausting search that would not be over easy. But they cracked the case in less than a day. And for those of you keeping track at home, that was 8 puns in 15 seconds. Do you remember writing on that egg?
Oh my goodness, yes.
And you were hoping to find someone to be a pen pal?
Well, who knows? We all dream.
Mary is now 92. But as a teenager working in an egg packing plant like this one, Mary says she used to dream of meeting someone in a far-off place. That fragile little message in a bottle, her way of reaching out.
Yes.
And now, 72 years later, she has finally made her connection.
And here it is.
How are you, Egg?
This past week, they came face to face for the first time.
And I hope we get to see you again.
Would you want to meet John in person?
Oh, I'd love to meet God, wouldn't you?
Oh. John!
Oh, John. Not really. I have no desire to meet the guy. He's got his problem. Keeping an egg that long.
Yeah, you're saving 70-year-old eggs. Yeah, you got a point there.
Well, and when you get to be my age, you meet a lot of kooks.
Sorry, John. Looks like the yoke's on us.
How you like your egg?
An online community of some very concerned people has proven against the odds that indeed no man is an island. Contributor Nicholas Thompson, who's just become the new CEO of The Atlantic, has the tale of the hiker.
It's believed he started walking the Appalachian Trail sometime around April of 2017. From a state park in New York, he hiked south and about 1,000 miles, and 10 months later, crossed into Florida.
I saw a man walking on the side of the road. The thing that stood out to me first was his beard, also his trekking poles. His trekking poles let me know that he was a hiker.
Kelly Fairbanks was a so-called trail angel, offering help to weary hikers.
Why did he make an impression on you?
He just had a really kind aura about him.
Yeah.
He was joking and laughing with me, had a beautiful smile, and he had beautiful eyes. Different
Sounds like
from
you
any
thought he
other
was
hiker.
kind of handsome.
Yeah, most of the women do.
Fairbanks took a few pictures of him. So did other hikers. Some caught him on video.
Did you ask him his name?
He introduced himself to me as mostly harmless.
Mostly harmless. That's what he called himself when he was on the trail and off the grid.
He said, I'm not using a cell phone. And I said, what do you mean you're not using a cell phone? And he said, sometimes people just want to disconnect.
6 months after that, in southern Florida, hikers made a terrible discovery.
Call your county 911. What is the address of your emergency?
They were calling from the Big Cypress National Preserve in Florida's Alligator Alley.
We just found a dead body.
Okay. Are you on the trail?
Yeah, I'm on the trail, and then the dead body is at the Camp Noble site.
The body was curled up in a yellow tent.
We had a white male. We had no electronics, no identification, no wallet, no personal information. There was nothing there that gave us a hint at the time.
David Herm is a detective with the Collier County, Florida Sheriff's Office.
We just typically don't see people go to that lengths. Most people are not comfortable being completely off the grid like that.
The sheriff's department put out a sketch.
So you're looking at Facebook at work, you open up a group that you're part of, and you see a picture of this person you recognize.
Yes.
How do you react?
Freaked out a little bit.
Kelly Fairbanks was sure it was mostly harmless, but his real name remained a mystery. Sheriff's detectives searched databases using his face and fingerprints. Nothing. The autopsy couldn't even pinpoint a cause of death. But over the next 2 years, the case slowly gathered attention.
I do a lot of hiking and things like that, and that's part of the agreement, is we all know that we look out for each other. You know, you don't leave someone behind.
Natasha Teasley manages a canoe and kayak company in North Carolina. Surfing online, she became fascinated by the case of Mostly Harmless. She helped form a Facebook group to try to identify him, named for an alias he sometimes used, Ben Billamy. The group grew to more than 6,000 members.
My phone stays blown up all the time with people sending me messages of like, could it be this person or could it be that person?
Teasley went through public records, including a government website called NamUs, a clearinghouse for missing and unidentified persons cases across the country. According to NamUs, 4,400 unidentified bodies are recovered each year.
You have looked at the face of every white man between the age of 25 and 60 who's listed as missing in the entire United States?
I have. And there are a lot of them. There are a lot of missing people in our country. I was not aware of how many missing people there are in our country.
The search didn't pan out, but a new high-tech tool held out hope.
We're the only lab in the United States that does this kind of advanced forensic testing in-house.
David Middleman is the founder of Othram, just outside Houston. Testing there would cost $5,000, money not in the Collier County Sheriff's Office budget. Enter the online sleuths.
There was a dedicated group of folks that really wanted to see this case move forward. And so being that funding was the only bottleneck, and when we encountered that situation, we opened it up for crowdfunding. In this particular case, you know, there was so much pent-up interest in the case that we crowdfunded it with the crowd in the truest sense of the word in about, I think, like 8 days. It was really quick.
Othram received some of Mostly Harmless's DNA from the sheriff's department and went to work.
What we do is we capture tens of thousands of markers to hundreds of thousands of markers, and we do more of a relationship search instead of an exact match. Some people call it a genealogical search.
The results showed that Mostly Harmless was probably from Assumption Parish in Louisiana. Articles appeared online. One that I wrote for Wired was read by 1.5 million people. Still, months went by with no positive ID. But then Randall Godso from Louisiana saw a post.
And as soon as I saw the pictures, I knew immediately, it's like, oh, that's Vance.
It was his college roommate.
Tingle ran down my spine.
2.5 years after his body was found, the hiker had a name.
Today we know that Mostly Harmless was a man by the name of Vance Rodriguez.
The thousands of people following the case soon learned that Vance Rodriguez was complicated. He indeed grew up in Louisiana, and he moved to New York in his 30s. He was a brilliant computer programmer whose notebooks, found in the tent where he died, were filled with computer code. Vance Rodriguez was estranged from his family, had troubled, even abusive romantic relationships, and he'd sometimes disappear on his friends. Still, why had it taken so long to identify him? Partly because he had erased his tracks, and partly because no one was looking for him. It wasn't entirely the answer that the people who'd been working on his case wanted to hear.
All the people who met him on the trail describe him as friendly, amiable, easy to talk to, whereas all the other people who knew him in real life describe him as a little distant, a little bit of a loner. What's the difference? How did that happen?
It's not really a difference. It's a difference in when you were talking to him. When he was in a good mood, he was very easy to talk to. He was very friendly, but he would also turn off and be in a bad mood. And the trail people never saw that, because if he decided he wasn't going to talk to anyone, he literally just would not talk to anyone. And so no one would know, no one would remember him, I'm sure.
To me, like, Him being imperfect was always a possibility. We're all humans and we all have really complicated pasts, you know? I don't think it changes the value of what we did as a community, you know? Like, we came together out of human kindness.
And so Natasha Teasley started the Kindness Project. The idea is to harness the online energy that helped identify Vance Rodriguez and to use it to identify the thousands of others who remain missing and unidentified. It's a postscript to the strange story of Mostly Harmless, an effort to give names to the nameless.
My hope is that it doesn't end here, that every single person who was impacted by this story in some way will at least carry away with the knowledge of, like, care about it, care about who these people are, and that they have friends and family. They do. Even if you've given up that they have friends and family, they have friends and family.
Crater Lake is the deepest lake in the entire country. The pristine water in this collapsed volcano is so unbelievably blue, it seems magical. It cast such a spell on early visitors, they named the cone in the center Wizard Island. I love the name Wizard Island.
It kind of evokes a little bit of mystery.
Mystery is what brought me to this national park in southern Oregon. Specifically, a Mr. Tree. I'd come to pay my respects to the old man of the lake.
It's an honor to meet you, sir.
The old man of the lake was first discovered in 1896 by Joseph Diller, who was a geologist and explorer, and he described him as a spectacle, curious enough to excite the imagination.
It may not look like much, but this part of a tree has been part of this park since its inception. A 30-foot-long log, implausibly bobbing upright for 120 years. Never the young man, always the old man.
He's always been the old man of the lake.
He's like the Larry King of stumps. He must have been young at some point, we just don't know.
Mark Buktenica is an aquatic ecologist for the park. As he monitors the water quality of Crater Lake, he also ends up monitoring the movements of the old man. That's right, this seemingly unsinkable tree gets around.
You would think that the 4 foot above the water would act as a little sail, but sometimes he'll move all the way across the lake against the wind.
It's as if he has a mind of his own. The old man can travel miles in a single day.
Today, he's close to the shore. Tomorrow, he could be in the middle of the lake.
In the 1930s, the government commissioned a study of his movements. In their log of the log, rangers observed the old man move over 60 miles in less than 3 months.
The pilot was sealed to the 6-foot acrylic bubble for the...
In the 1980s, Mark Buktenica was part of a submarine exploration of Crater Lake. To avoid running into the old man out in the water, they tied him up on the shore. Bad idea.
It wasn't long after he was tied up that a storm blew in, and the surface of the lake got too rough for us to deploy and recover the submarine.
When it started to snow in August, superstition got the best of the scientists.
Our senior scientists went out quietly one evening and released the old man from his bondage.
And, wouldn't you know it, the weather cleared up right afterwards. As Jennifer Evans explains, it's stories like that that have helped the old man take root in the imaginations of visitors.
He kind of became a bit of a celebrity, I guess, of Crater Lake.
And inquiring minds want to know, why hasn't the old man sunk? Rocks may have once weighed down the roots, waterlogging the bottom while the sun dried out the top. But Mark Buktenica isn't as concerned with the why.
I think maybe some questions should remain unanswered. That maybe it's part of the human condition to believe in a little bit of mystery and the interconnectedness of all things.
So as a scientist, you're okay with maybe not knowing?
I'm okay with not knowing.
As the old man bobs across the water, perhaps that's what he's trying to teach us with his travels. Sometimes it's fun to be stumped.
Before air travel, the departure of a great liner was considered news, and Cunard's Lusitania was the greatest, the fastest, the most luxurious liner afloat on May 1st, 1915, as she prepared to leave New York City for Liverpool. It was news that the glamorous and rich Alfred Gwynne Vanderbilt was aboard, a member of the Just Missed It Club, people who had booked on the Titanic but canceled at the last minute. And it was news that in the morning papers that day, Germany, at war with Great Britain, published a warning that vessels flying the British flag or the flag of any of her allies were subject to attack as they passed through the waters off the British Isles.
Even though it made no mention of the Lusitania, it was widely interpreted to be aimed at the ship. In fact,
Eric Larson is the author of the New York Times bestseller, Dead Wake, about the Lusitania.
the prevailing view was that the Lusitania was too big, too fast to ever be caught by a German submarine. And also there was this other idea that no German commander would try to sink it in the first place because it was a passenger liner.
But on May 7th at 2:10 p.m., in sight of the Irish coast, the Lusitania was struck by a German torpedo. Moments later, there was a second explosion. She sank in just 18 minutes. 1,198 of the nearly 2,000 people on the ship died, more than 120 of them Americans.
Yeah, you can see, there she is rising in again now.
Yeah.
And we've just come up over the wreck, and we're about to cross down to the other side now.
The wreck is still down there, in 300 feet of water. Boat Captain Carol O'Donoghue feels its presence.
Oh, you said you'd remember the tragedy of it all, really. Perfectly clear day, just like today.
You see nothing, just water.
All I could see was heads bobbing up and down.
For a 1994 documentary, National Geographic interviewed survivors of the Lusitania.
And it was like a half a circle of people moaning in the water. It was just a moan, a constant moan, and it gradually got less and less.
Owen McGarry has dived the wreck nearly 50 times.
When you're out here, do you have feelings for what happened and what's down there?
When I look up at the surface, I can see bodies raining down. You can see what it was like. You can hear the screams.
The torpedo hit just behind the bridge on the starboard side. The ship tilted so far, so fast, only 6 lifeboats successfully made it into the water. Naval vessels in the area were ordered not to go near the site for fear they would be torpedoed too. So small boats made their way from Queenstown, now called Cove, 31 miles away. Some rescuers had to row the entire distance.
My grandfather raced down to the office, was immediately involved in the rescue operation, getting anybody who had a boat to go out.
Courtney Murphy's grandfather, Jerome Murphy, the Cunard Line manager in Queenstown, took charge.
He had to organize to commandeer rooms in the hotels where the survivors could be put up.
In this family photo, the small boy in the front row is Courtney Murphy's father, who watched as the rescue boats returned.
The bodies, as they came in the boats, would have been in whatever clothes they had on them, and then they were covered in shrouds or in sheets.
So your father remembered seeing
He remembered
bodies.
seeing lines of bodies being laid out here along the footpath, and that has an indelible memory for him.
There were 764 survivors. Among the dead, Alfred Gwynne Vanderbilt. Today in Cove, there is a monument along the route the funeral procession took to the town cemetery, where the Lusitania dead were buried in mass graves. Mourners, as far as the eye could see, paying their respects. The pictures then and now, an eerie matchup. Was the sinking of the Lusitania just bad luck or something more sinister? Her captain, William Thomas Turner, believed she would have a British naval escort into port. None appeared. The British Navy didn't tell Captain Turner that U-20, the submarine that sunk her, was out there, something it knew because Germany's code books had been captured and then decoded at a top-secret facility called Room 40.
One explanation is that Room 40 was absolutely top secret, and by God, they were going to keep it that way. But another explanation is that it would not hurt the British effort if the Lusitania were sunk and Americans were killed, because it might draw America into the war.
Winston Churchill oversaw Room 40. Head of the British Navy then, he was on record hoping for an incident that would drag the United States into the war.
There's no smoking memo, if you will, that says that Churchill or the Admiralty deliberately put the Lusitania in harm's way. There is, however, a body of evidence that if you look at it, it is really damning.
No one has ever been able to inspect the underside of the wreck, where the answer to the question what caused the second explosion may lie.
These two items were recovered in 2011.
The Irish government has only allowed diver Owen McGarry to bring up artifacts that were lying on the sea floor or were in the bridge area.
This is a multi-beam image of the wreck. It's a sonar beam that's sent from a ship. It bounces off the sea floor. If you could imagine, the whole ship is lying on her side. The starboard side is underneath all that. And sadly, because she's lying on the torpedo wound, we can't see exactly, This is where all the carnage happened, where the torpedo strike and the second explosion.
McGarry, for one, doesn't believe the accepted conclusion that the second explosion was caused by the rupture of the ship's main steam line. She was carrying small arms munitions. But were there other explosives aboard?
I still think that there was, and she was carrying contraband. Something substantial caused that second explosion. And I do believe that there is somebody out there who does know.
Or not. The Lusitania remains fodder for conspiracy theorists.
It's the maritime grassy knoll. There are so many miraculous or nearly so things that happen that, it leaves room for people to say, well, that can't be it. I mean, here's this ship that sank in 18 minutes. It's just not possible, right?
100 years later, as time takes its toll, the truth only becomes more elusive.
At Stonehenge, it's always been about the sun. For more than 4,000 years, the monument has stood like a giant sundial, marking the longest day of the year and the shortest, taking aim at the sun like a giant stone gun sight. Yet Stonehenge is also about mystery. The big stone circle is only the most obvious part of the site. Lesser monuments, some much older and most of them buried under the soil now, stretch for miles across the landscape.
There's certainly an increase in the amount of effort people are willing to put into constructing monuments.
And they're being looked at in a way that's never been possible before, using high-definition, ground-penetrating radar and other magnetic and resistance-sensitive survey equipment in what's being called the Hidden Landscapes Project. A documentary team from the Smithsonian Channel has been following the archaeologists around, and using computer-generated imagery, it's been digitally reconstructing some of the monuments that have long since disappeared, like this burial chamber. Built of wooden posts with timbered walls and covered with earth, it predates Stonehenge by centuries and would have held the remains of around 50 bodies. Henry Chapman, an archaeologist from the University of Birmingham, England, says the project has produced more data than they know what to do with.
It's a sort of sweet shop problem that when you're presented with loads of more information, you kind of think, right, so I want some more now.
It's the Moorish problem.
Yeah, it's a Moorish problem, yeah.
And the new data has helped answer some old questions, like whether the giant stone circle, now somewhat gap-toothed, was ever complete. The digital probing and some dry patches that emerged during a recent drought seem to show that Stonehenge was once, in fact, a full circle.
And we got a series of parch marks which showed us the positions of some stones which we'd never seen before at Stonehenge. The position of stone 17 here.
Mark Bowden of English Heritage shows us how it looked.
Stone 18 here. Stone 19 here. And stone 20 here.
In many ways, I think we've had almost a false understanding of Stonehenge, and because we haven't been able to see the whole picture.
What kind of false understanding? And how much of an understanding have we had?
I think probably one of the most stunning ones is probably the largest monument in the landscape, and quite hard to see, but the Greater Cursus, which is sort of running right across here, a huge monument.
Which went on for miles.
Literally. Yeah, literally. I mean, it goes right from both horizons.
The new imagery shows what they call the Greater Cursus, running like a huge ditch and mound in a massive loop across the countryside. Archaeologists had known it was there, but were never sure what it contained or what it was for. And the new gizmos have revealed details never previously seen in the hundreds of years Stonehenge has been studied. There were great pits and structures along its route, and all of them seem built in relation to the passage of the sun across the sky. In fact, the ends of the cursus themselves line up with the main monument and the sun at the winter and summer solstice. These were extremely primitive Stone Age cultures, yet they seem to have figured out the sun thing.
Yeah, well, it's weird. I mean, I actually don't think we can see them actually as that primitive. I mean, they're farmers. Of course, they're going to be understanding when summer is, when winter is. They're reliant on it in terms of their farming cycle. And actually the ability to measure that and to be able to see when, different times of year is actually quite useful.
It's a big clock.
Yeah.
A really big clock, and maybe the world's most famous one. It draws millions of visitors, including President Obama when he dropped by last year. It's the size of the stones that impresses, that and the fact that the big upright ones were somehow brought to this place from more than 30 miles away, and some of the smaller ones brought from much further, and all of that before the builders had use of the wheel. Stonehenge archaeologist and historian Susan Greene spends a lot of time answering the one question that always comes up. How did they do it?
It's one of those things where people say, well, prehistoric people were kind of unsophisticated and they were sort of cavemen. No, they were building Stonehenge. If they were building Stonehenge, they were very sophisticated people. Stonehenge is unique. There's nothing like it in the entire world. There's no other linteled stone circle. When I say linteled, I mean the horizontal stones on the top of the other stones. So it tells us a huge amount about the sophistication of our prehistoric ancestors.
Whatever its technical wonder, Stonehenge is also a spiritual place. Some of the findings suggest ancient rituals, including possibly human sacrifice, may have been carried out here. Legends persist that the place was a ceremonial ground for druids, despite the fact there's no evidence the mystical cult that existed about 2,000 years ago was ever here.
May there be peace in the West.
That hasn't stopped modern-day devotees from coming back. Although the modern surveyors have discovered evidence of other activity.
There's also, if you imagine in this landscape, there were festivals here in the 80s. So what we've also picked up is a lot of material, particularly just in this area.
Little semi-combusted little pieces.
Yes, it is. We even found the latrine, which is just in this area.
Right. What they haven't found, though, is meaning. No machine can do that.
There's elements to do with solar lunar alignments, marking time. It's almost certainly a temple, but it also has all these other sort of functions. So when we start sort of saying what's the meaning of Stonehenge, I think probably how many reasons do you need?
The technical survey has increased the appetite for more traditional archaeological study. Until you dig, you don't really know what's there. And now they have so many more places to dig. The mystery lives on.
Absolutely. And long may it live on.
18 years ago, two young men made news when they found a skull on the bank of the Columbia River near Kennewick, Washington. Suspecting foul play, they called the police, who thought the skull looked very old. They were right. Anthropologists excavated the area and found the full skeleton and determined it had been carefully buried along the river 9,000 years ago.
It is certainly America's most important skeleton. It is an exceptionally rare discovery. It does not happen but once in a lifetime.
Doug Owsley is the Smithsonian's top physical anthropologist. He sued the federal government and local Indian tribes for the right to study Kennewick Man.
We know what happened 10,000 years ago.
The tribes believe the bones are ancestral and should be reburied, but the courts found that the remains had little genetic connection to present-day Indians and ruled in favor of science. After years of work, Owsley and a team of scientists are publishing Kennewick Man's biography.
Most people are not aware of the wealth of information that can come from human remains.
He was 5'7", a muscular 163 pounds, and died when he was about 40 years old. His intelligence was comparable to that of present-day humans.
I truly consider him an ambassador from an ancient time period and enlightening us to what his life was like.
In a word, his life was brutal.
He has half a dozen fractured ribs. The ribs on this side, the right side, failed to mend properly.
Add to that a severe shoulder injury, 2 skull fractures, and worse. When he was 15 to 20 years old, someone threw a spear at him, and the spearhead lodged permanently in his hip.
I think this is something that's intentionally lobbed at this man with the intention of killing him.
Owsley says Kennewick Man is causing scientists to rethink how humans first came to this continent.
So the traditional theory is that people came by foot across the Bering Strait on a land bridge. This suggests that perhaps people also came by water.
That's right. You have people coming in thousands of years earlier than we had thought. Boat use, they had boats, boat use coming into the New World much earlier, and that he is from these East Asian coastal populations.
A life on the water is consistent with Kennewick Man's diet, as determined by the chemical signature discovered in his bones.
We find that this man is heavily dependent on seals. From the indications, lots of salmon in his diet. This man is a marine mammal hunter.
His teeth were worn down and showed no sign of cavities. His enormously strong right arm suggests that he hunted with a spear.
He's whipping it so fast that he actually fractured off the back portion, the socket portion.
One of Owsley's biggest challenges was recreating what Kennewick Man actually looked like.
How do you get this from that?
Well, you're going to take the skull and it's your template. It's your template for the outline and for the different structures where the eye, the nose.
Sculptors took months to build this likeness based on the shape of his skull and archival photos from Asian coastal people. Native Americans are still fighting for the right to bury Kennewick Man, but the federal government is holding on to his remains until the dispute between the tribes and the scientists can be resolved.
I feel that the skeleton is just beginning to talk to us, and we need to carry on that conversation.
A conversation with a man who hasn't spoken a word in 9,000 years.
In the candy consumption world, some are lickers, some are chewers, and some are crunchers. And amazingly, there exists a candy that can accommodate all 3 desires. It's the Tootsie Pop, and it comes with an eternal mystery.
Mr. Turtle, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
I never made it without biting.
It turns out that's not the only question raised by Tootsie Pops and Tootsie Rolls. Tootsie, it seems, is a company wrapped in secrecy.
Look how much candy you brought. Fantastic.
Armed with pieces of the puzzle, I sat down to talk Tootsie with Samira Kawash, a former English professor who now writes as the Candy Professor. It's not exactly chocolate,
Yeah.
But it does give you the chocolate sensation.
Let's look at the package carefully. I'm not seeing the word chocolate anywhere here.
We do know the story of Tootsie Roll goes back to 1896. This is the street where it all started, on the west side of Manhattan, after an Austrian immigrant named Leo Hirschfeld came up with a new way of baking taffy. What Leo developed was a Tootsie with durability. Remember, back then, there were no refrigerators, so you know what happens to chocolate in the heat. But thanks to Leo, you could have your summertime candy and eat it too.
And we, of course, don't know how the Tootsie Roll Company is actually making these today.
Okay.
Top secret.
The Tootsie Trail brought us here, to the Cleveland, Ohio headquarters of Great Lakes Review, an investment firm. The folks here say that the Tootsie Roll Company hasn't been giving them much financial information to chew on.
We initiated coverage on Tootsie Roll in 1996.
Elliot Schlang is the founder of Great Lakes Review.
There's nothing in the annual report.
He used to put Tootsie Roll on the menu for his investors, but not anymore.
There's not another company that I'm aware of that I'm not welcome, or that others in my profession aren't welcome to come in and hear about what's going on at the company.
We do know that Tootsie Roll had total sales of just about $550 million in 2012. The company is run by Melvin Gordon, the chairman, who's in his 90s, and his wife, Ellen, the president, who's in her 80s. It's not like Mr. Schlang didn't try to get some answers from Mrs. Gordon.
I've enjoyed over the years talking to her.
Oh, you have talked to her.
But not about the company. We can discuss the weather and what's going on in Chicago, but not the company.
There was only one way to get to the center of the Tootsie Roll story. I came here to Chicago, to the factory where Tootsies are born. But it turns out getting into Tootsie Roll Industries isn't easy. In fact, it's darn near impossible. They refused our request for an interview. Can we talk to you about working for Tootsie Roll? No? And the employees didn't seem ready to dish either. Can you talk to us at all about working for Tootsie Roll? I finally found one worker who bit on the big question. What's your favorite Tootsie Roll product? Do you have one?
The lollipops, actually.
What do you like to do? Are you a licker? Or do you crunch through?
I crunch through after a little bit, yeah.
That's what I do too. Apparently, the only way to see what goes on inside is by going online to watch the company's videos. It claims it makes 62 million Tootsie Rolls a day.
Please don't do that. Stop filming me, please.
Back outside, things suddenly got tense. Tootsie security rolled up. My name's Nancy Giles. I'm with Sunday Morning on CBS, and Tootsie Rolls are my favorite food.
Would you mind turning it off? I'm not going to talk to you until this goes through.
Oh. Having made it to the front gate, and no further, it seemed we would never get to the center of the Tootsie Roll Company.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 3.
The owl was right. I crunched my way to the center. But in the end, the world will continue to chew on the mystery behind Tootsie Roll.
In recent months, we've spent plenty of time focusing on the mysteries of artificial intelligence, but nothing quite like this. With Luke Burbank, seeing is believing.
Last fall, if you were one of the people attending the prestigious Summit of the Future at the United Nations, chances are you also saw a truly unique piece of art. Something pulsing and swirling and essentially living, the creation of Rafiq Anadol, powered by artificial intelligence.
I think AI is inhuman, but I think AI is a mirror for humanity. So we just invent a mirror, and this mirror has an intelligence, reasoning, so it will be like a very interesting journey for humanity.
That mirror, as he calls it, is large nature model coral, which uses an AI algorithm to draw on over 100 million photographs of coral to hallucinate, you heard that right, a series of new, totally original coral images. As his work creates new digital coral, he hopes to draw attention to the coral die-off worldwide.
It will be a painful process, most likely, for the humanity in general, when we are all transparently in front of the mirror with AI.
If that idea that artificial intelligence can be a living mirror sounds kind of out there, Well then, welcome to the world of Rafik Anadol, where big ideas lurk beneath bigger-than-life art installations. His work, unsupervised machine hallucinations, was the first generative art ever acquired by the Museum of Modern Art in New York.
We trained AI on 138,000 older artworks at Museum of Modern Art's archive, and let AI never ever replicate existing artwork in the archive, but find a way, a new vocabulary, a new language, a new type of art. And to do that even, we worked like 2 years to let AI not to show us real things, but hallucinate and dream. So it's possible to use AI to literally create these dream machines, which is the opposite of what they are designed for. Be pigment.
Anadol's mother, who's from Turkey, says she was shocked, literally, by an exposed wire during one of his early experiments with technology. She explains Rafik would dismantle things and then try to put them back together, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. When Anadol arrived in LA from Istanbul in 2012 as a student at UCLA, he expected the Los Angeles skyline to be something out of the film Blade Runner.
I arrived so late, 2 a.m. Apparently at that time, the buildings just shut down the lights. I didn't see the LA I was looking for. I saw something dark. But that was the night I believed that one day, I hope, I can just give a life through these beautiful buildings and facades, like the Blade Runner. Let the building dream, remember, and just hallucinate.
Fast forward a decade, and Anadol's dreams are a reality. Whole buildings are his canvas. From the Las Vegas Sphere to Casa Batlló in Barcelona and Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles, now his adopted hometown. And soon, Anadol hopes to open his own museum in downtown LA called Dataland.
Dataland is a place where we interact with data, touch, taste, learn, hear, watch data. It's making invisible visible, inventing a new medium of storytelling, inventing a new ways of communicating with AI, with data, something we don't see but we know that exists, right? That type of new worlds to explore and to discover.
The space will feature AI dreams of the disappearing Amazon rainforest and AI-generated aromas of flowers that don't actually exist yet.
We typed exactly the scientific names of the flowers to be sure that AI understands their type, their color, their form and shapes, and then AI can connect them together to make this AI dream of all the flowers of Amazonia.
How long is this?
Basically, no end. It can dream all these flowers many, many times in different forms and shapes. It can be infinite.
All of this could cause one to ask the question if the only thing dreaming bigger than artificial intelligence just might be Rafik Anadol himself.
Every now and then, we like to journey into the creative world of contributor Robert Krulwich and animator Nate Milton. This morning, they're taking us to the Rocky Mountains. And as always, we're traveling first class.
Here's the thing about size. If we have two frogs, one of them is little and the other one is bigger, generally the little guy will croak higher and the bigger guy lower. And you'd see the same thing with birds. Little birds go high, bigger birds lower. And there's a reason for this. If an animal is bigger, it generally has room for a larger larynx, longer vocal tracts, and more space inside to produce a deeper sound. Musicians know this, of course. Your bassoon, sir, for example, is a little longer than her clarinet, see? So we would expect, go ahead, the bigger to go lower. And tubas, the biggest of all, they go the lowest of all. And that seems to be the rule. But like all rules, every so often you find a fascinating exception, and my favorite is elks. Yeah, I just said elks. elks are very big. A full-grown bull elk averages more than 5 feet tall at the shoulders and can weigh between 700 and 1,100 pounds. And you look at a critter this size and you would naturally expect a deep basso voice, but when you hear an elk calling out, well, it's just embarrassing, really. They sound like mammalian canaries. Elk are odd. The animal that most resembles them is a red deer found in Asia and in Europe. And when a red deer calls out, it sounds, well, kind of like you would expect. Now compare that to the elk. And here's the deer again. Nobody knows exactly why elk developed this way. Their vocal cords are longer, but they've got muscles inside that constrict the sounds and have them go falsetto. But why? Why do this? The explanation is so unlikely, I'm just gonna say it. It's wind. Elk live mainly in the mountains, in the Rocky Mountains, which, as this map shows, is an especially windy zone. And these deep blue lines you see here, they track high wind speeds roughly at the height of a tree. And when the tree is a pine or a spruce, as they are in the Rockies, wind creates a whistling noise that can get very loud for very long, even days at a time. These are the loudest trees I have ever encountered, says biologist David Haskell. It's like the forest is shouting. So where then does that leave an amorous elk? Well, when it comes time to mate, a male elk will go to a spot kind of alone where he can advertise, they call it bugling. He will cry out as loud as he can in the direction of some lady elks who may be 2 or even 3 miles away in all-female herds, cloistered somewhere in the forest where they gather and they listen. Meanwhile, other males in other places will cry out, bugling their love songs simultaneously, begging for attention. And they do this with the wind around them blowing fiercely, which should make it almost impossible for anyone to hear anything unless male elks can find a way to get around the wind. Nature gives them a choice. They can either pitch their voices low down under the wind or higher and higher up over the wind. Either way works, and evolution, it seems, has chosen the higher route. Wind takes up so much audible space in the Rocky Mountains that over the last 10,000 years, American elk have learned to sing in higher and higher register in order to reach females who hear them and then welcome the best performer into their herd where he can make babies. Lots of babies. And that's the key, reproductive success. So it may be that male elks sound like big canaries because going soprano gets them up over the wind barrier. Yeah, there could be other explanations. Female elks may find a high-voiced male just very sexy and choose them with or without wind. Sexual attraction matters in evolution, but so does environment. And as best we can tell, when you hear a big elk call out like a little bird, and you say, "What is that about?" we say, best guess? Blame the wind.